Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about blog post 4 and actually get us on the WikiHow site a little bit to look at it and talk about your main task this week, which is going to be selecting your instructions topic. So the first thing you're going to want to do is search WikiHow's requested article database here. Because the way WikiHow works, they want original topics. If there are topics on the same instructions on the same topic, they will pull them. They will delete one of them. So you want to make sure that either you do not create an instruction set on something that exists, or if you do, you create much better instructions. But you want to start by finding a topic that people are looking for. And if something is on this list, on this page we are here, it means that either no instructions exist for it or people do not feel the instructions are sufficient and are looking for new ones. So you want to look for something that is a somewhat technical task in your area of expertise. So I say technical because you don't want to pick a task that isn't sort of hands-on, that doesn't require some manipulation of like material in some way. For example, if you browse through WikiHow, they have sometimes topics like how to survive a breakup, and something like that would not be a good topic for this class because we want to sort of mirror the kinds of instructions you might be asked to write in the workforce, which are largely going to involve actually performing hands-on tasks. So your topic should be performing a hands-on task. I'm going to ask that it not be a recipe. Recipes are a slightly different genre. They don't work exactly the same way as other types of instructions, so please no recipes. If you have something food related, it's possible that that might work, but I'll have to okay it, but not a recipe. I'm also going to ask that you please don't choose something like a drinking game or anything alcohol or drug related, which surprisingly students often choose. I am concerned about your health and also for any legal liability through this course, so please nothing that would have you engaging in dangerous or potentially illegal behavior. But beyond that, find a suggested topic to write about. And you can go about this in two ways. You can go by category. Oh, I'm also going to say, for WikiHow, do not do how to change a tire. You might be awesome at changing a tire. I guarantee you WikiHow has excellent instructions on how to change a tire. So you're also going to have to find something else. So I might go to education and communications because that's sort of where my field is. And I will just search through until I find something that looks like it might be a good fit for this assignment, which means it's going to involve actually doing something, actually performing a task instead of feeling something, an actual task to perform, and that's moderately complex, that will require somewhere in the maybe 12 to 18, 20, 24 step range. So I would just go through until I find something that meets that criteria. Now the other option would be that I could search for an area specifically. So let's say I want to do a grammar related topic. I could try grammar. Let's see if anything comes up, because we're just going to see what happens. And look, I suddenly have all of these grammar related topics. So maybe I could find some sort of grammar topic, like maybe I want to do sentence diagramming. I maybe could find something like that. And I'd have to think about how useful is this as a topic. So maybe like fixed spelling and grammar errors seems much too complicated. Use spelling and grammar checking in Word might be not complicated enough. So you want to find something in your field, something you know how to do relatively well, and make sure that it is an appropriate level of complexity for this assignment. Then what you're going to want to do is actually search WikiHow to see if the instructions for that already exist, because just because it shows up on this page does not mean it doesn't already exist. And if it does, you're going to want to read through those instructions and think, is this sufficient? And if you feel like, no, these are really good instructions for this task, then as it says here, you'll want to return to step 1. If you feel like, no, these instructions, I could do much better, have a lot more steps, make it a lot more user-friendly, you might want to still write about them. So once you've located an appropriate topic and you've found that the exact same instructions don't exist, you're going to respond to the blog proposing this topic for your instructions project. And the blog post should clearly state the topic of the instructions, whatever that is, briefly discuss the findings of your search for similar or identical instructions on WikiHow. If similar or identical instructions exist, which in many cases they might, you're going to write a justification for why an additional instruction set is needed. And that would probably have something to do with what you can do that the original set of instructions did not, and a justification for how this instruction set relates to either the focus of our course, which would be on technical writing, obviously, or your fields of study. Now, you want this to be a moderately technical task that other people can perform, because the next step of this is a user test. And we're going to get into it next week, but there's 2 kinds of user tests. The most useful kind to run actually involve watching people perform the instructions. So if, as has happened in the past, you decide to write instructions for, let's say, performing a medical procedure, other people probably cannot and should not replicate that. So ideally, you'll find a task that is somewhat technical, somewhat related to your field of study, but I'm also going to expand this and say to your interests, as long as it's still appropriately technical, appropriately hands-on, so that this can be something that another person can perform. I will then review all of the posts and respond with a comment approving or disapproving of your topic, and at that point you can start working on them. You'll notice that I have it listed for Wednesday, Thursday to work on this. The earlier you do this, the better, because the earlier you can get your start on your draft. You know that normally with the blogs, I log in on Monday or Tuesday, the week after you guys wrote it, and respond then. Next week, I will actually be just every day logging into the blog, seeing what people have, and as soon as, hopefully the day or the next day, I will get back to you, so you know whether I approve it or disapprove it, so you can get started as soon as possible. So I would highly recommend doing this as early in the week as you can, so you can get started. And in the next video, we're going to talk about how to actually write up instructions, so why don't you tune in for that one.